Okay, so we're going to look at assignment 4 now. And let's take a look at assignment 4. What are the requirements? Do not forget, you are expected to have comment headers, meaningful comment headers, like always, in all your files, not just the JavaScript, in your HTML, in your CSS, if you use CSS, separate file, or in the JavaScript. I will be eventually requiring, I guess I'm not requiring a separate JS file, but you'll be wanting to do that, and I'll make that a requirement eventually. But you can do inline JavaScript if you want, because it's not super complex. As you build larger projects, you want them to be separate JavaScript file. And I want you to upload your entire, not your entire 460 website, but the folder for this homework as a single zip file. And if you don't know how to do that, figure it out, or I can give you some pointers. You can use VS Code. I'm going to be using VS Code. You can use any editor you want. Yes?
My space is still displaying the website from, that's not even in the file system anymore.
Your what is?
Not space, sorry, people.advanced.edu.
Well, let's take a look here. Did you not publish it?
I did. Like this file, the source for this file isn't even on.
Let's take a look. I'm going over to the website, cs460. There is E. Dramarski. Oh, I'll bet you have an index file sitting there, likely in your main folder, and so it's picking up the index file. So if you just delete that index file or rename it.
But yeah, the index file isn't even the one that's like it's a completely different file.
Really?
Like I don't know what this.
Well, let's take a look. Let's do Control-Shift-I and see what we have for sources here. It's looking at main styles.
Because that's not what I see in SCP.
Well, let me go over to the server. I'm going to just browse over to the server and see what's over there to explain what's going on. You have it looks to me like you have, well, let's just go take a look. I'm going to putty into the server, people.advanced.edu. And you're welcome. You can actually edit on the server if you like. Do you know how to do that? I'll let you practice your OS skills. I'm over on the server, and I'm going to do a cd var www html people.advanced.edu cs460 and do a ls. There I see all your folders. I'm going to go down into the E. Dramarski folder, ls -al, and I see an index.html at that level. So that should be the file dated January 18. And I don't see any subfolders.
How is this not syncing then?
Yeah, maybe are you using WinSCP or some other?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe the sync isn't working. I've always just dragged and dropped it over, and I get the confirmation as I'm replacing things. Make sure you're putting it over in the var www.html folder underneath your folder name. You're the only one that has permission to change those. Owner group, others do not have permission except to read. Now, we have to have our permission because our web server is running as a user that needs to be able to read those. All right, we can work on that. Make a subfolder. You can always go there, manually edit, and then see if WinSCP shows you the folders you created. Just make sure you are browsing the same folders you think you should be. It's easy to think you're in a particular place and really be somewhere else. Okay, let's take a look at this assignment now. Gonna use VS Code. I'm going to create a folder called HW4 because I'm going to publish it under my user HW4. I'm going to create an index.html, and then everything else I can choose the names. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Let me show you the zip file thing. Good question. Okay, so suppose I have a folder, not my virtual machines. I have a folder that I have these files in. Let's see where I'm keeping my files here. I'll browse over to there and pretend I have something finished here. So you probably can do it in WinSCP, but I'm going to just do it in Windows File Explorer for now. I'm going to go to where I have my website, cs460, my 2420, my web pages. There's my previous one. I'm going to, since I don't, let's see, my VS Code I think is closed, doesn't have it open. So I'm going to give it, VS Code does have it open. Let me close VS Code so I can finally let go of this folder and I can give it the proper name. This is supposed to be HW3. Okay. In File Explorer, I can right-click on that folder and do compress to zip file. It will create a zip file with that same name unless I decide to give it a different name, but I'm happy to give it the same name, and I hit enter. That is the file then you want to then upload. That has zipped together, and I can actually explore it. Confusing things to your Windows newbies. You explore a folder with a zip in it, and it looks like you're exploring a normal folder. And it often acts like a normal folder, except places where you...
That's the file you want. Just
that's the file to upload. Yeah. That's the file to upload to me. That's your archived, snapshot of your website. And then don't forget, also you want to publish the working website over to the people.emmaus.edu site. Okay? And give me the link to it, even though I could probably find it, but give me the link just as good practice. Okay, so back here then, let's think about what we want to do and and how we're going to approach the problem. I would like you basically to practice the demonstration of the use of these events in a JavaScript page of your own design with some requirements. No pop-ups, please. The alerts get very annoying and not good practice. Unless you're debugging, I'd say avoid alerts. Do the console.log to help debug. Sometimes it's just nice to do it, but in your final submission, you can comment out or erase the alerts. I had a method that when I was debugging, I actually set a variable called debug, and I had a bunch of if statements that if debug was on, it would do alerts and things like crazy. And then when I was ready to publish it, I didn't have to go comment out code. I could just say, oh, debug is 0 now, or debug is false. And then all the debug message would go away. So if I wanted to debug, I could easily modify one place in my code, and then all the debug messages were flying at me. You can set debug to be an integer, and at certain level of debugging, you just put in a few messages. And when you want to fully debug, you set debug to be 10, and then all the debug messages come out with detailed listings of all your little variables. Because sometimes you need to do that. It seems to work locally, but then something goes wrong. And as you do it, you can use your developer tools and your browser to help fix your JavaScript. So we want to use these various timer elements, and W3 Schools can be your helper. You can use AI. I'm letting you use AI just like you would out in the real world to say, how do I use onChange to change the color of my page from the onClick event? You're welcome to put some sort of phrase in AI. Ask for an example. How do I do that? And AI will give you an example. And then it's up to you to read and understand that code and then copy paste it into the right place in your code so that you have a nice page. Because that's a very realistic way that people approach websites is, how did I do it last time? Or give me an example. You can do it on internet search, but your AI helper is a fine way. If you do use AI, keep track for yourself what phrases you used. If you find some very useful sites with examples, cite those in your comments. So here I've given you flexibility on what you want to do when you do these various things. Look for examples of what to do with an on mouse over. What makes sense? Go to a website and do something. You can do something completely annoying and irritating and obnoxious as long as you're handling the mouse over event. So have fun with it, get it working, and you're welcome to get as crazy as you want as long as you're meeting the requirements. So I encourage creativity as you deal with these events. Want to be realistic, so I've asked for a few things. On this one, do a very basic thing that when you click, toggle the color of a button or paragraph. And I'm asking you to modify the style of that element. Now there's a couple ways to do that. You can modify the CSS or modify the individual style of that particular element. I'll let you decide how to do that. Another one, very common on websites, as you're typing in a new password, as you're typing, it's showing you how strong that password is, and you can't do something else until that password has met the criteria. Well, I've given you a little easier one. All what it's doing here, I want you to not enable another button until the word that they're typing is contained in an array of approved words. So a little bit of a challenge there. Create an array of approved words, and then every time they hit a key in that text box, you check, have they typed one of those approved words yet? So this is I'm not saying a huge challenge, but think about how you might do that. But I am requiring you having an array of approved words. So you're gonna practice iterating through an array, comparing it to an approved, the word that they're typing to what's in that array, figuring out what array functions are available to you. You don't have to write a lot of code if you explore what array functions are available. And then once that, and if that word appears then in that array, then you can enable the button. This is something I would probably copy paste that phrase to an AI and ask for an example of that. See if you understand the code, and then modify it to match the words you want to pick. So this might be fun. Challenge yourself to see how much you could do on your own, and feel free to have AI give you a little help. But do not forget, anytime you come across great examples, it'll be so helpful to you later in the code or to someone else reading your code of here was a good place that helped me. You're going to want that yourself, because you'll come back either having forgotten the project or learned another language that's completely different. You wonder, what was this about? Oh yeah, that was a guide that I used. Sometimes your guides are giving you bad advice, and you'll learn that as you go down the road in your careers, is what sites are sometimes lead you off on a rabbit trail, and they have very obscure bad code that only worked for JavaScript 10 years old and doesn't work anymore. Sometimes you'll come across conversation and these very smart gurus are very rude, never give you the surrounding code needed to make something work. They just give you the snippet expecting you to know a ton of other things. So keep track of the ones that give you good help. So let me help you with this. I'm going to start a VS Code and start a new project. And first of all, my plan is to write the HTML with maybe the first two things. That on change, I think I'll have an input box, and I'll say change this and see something happen. And then on click, I'll get that one working. Then I'll worry about the other ones. And you know what I think I'm going to do? I think I'll copy paste this into my comments, because this is the kind of things that I'm trying to demonstrate. So I'm going to copy that right now and start up VS Code. I'm going to create a new folder, open a folder, and let's say I'm going to browse to where I'm keeping all my fantastic code. Give it the right name this time, new folder, HW4. Go down into it and select that folder. Okay, new file. My first file is going to be index.html. Always name it index.html, and then your life will be better. Exclamation point tab fills my standard template. And just to keep yourself from forgetting, maybe put this here right away. Here's the code that I want to demonstrate. Demonstrate JavaScript events as follows. And at the top, I'll put my copyright. Since I'm working for MAS, I don't own the copyright. MAS officially owns it. You're not working for me, so you own your stuff. If you want to work for me, you gotta work for free. Okay, index.html doesn't do anything, but it has a nice thing. Now, eventually, I'm going to require that your code validates. We're not going to worry about that for now, but that would be the refinement to websites. They actually validate, and they don't have annoying little errors here and there, like a fave icon is missing, or poor or old deprecated code. There are extensions that you can use to pretty your code up, but I'm not going to worry about that for now. So I'm going to put purpose. Purpose.
2427 is the password.
I don't remember. Probably. Exclamation point at the end. I can reset it for you if you want. Okay, so there's my index.html. Nothing in there yet. Let me get something in here, and then I will just verify that it's in the right place. So I'm going to go to my body, H1, and I'll go JSmart, John Smart, homework 4 for cs460. And an H1 element. Save it, and let's get it published, and then I can go through the change tests or change publish test. I like actually testing it as it's published, just in case there's something different that works when I open it locally versus opening it on the server. And of course, I can show my mom my website as I'm working on it. She can watch me work. Okay, so let's go to WinSCP now. Connecting to my people.mas.edu. Save my password, and remember, you can have a hard link in your home page, or you can browse over to the main drive, var, www, html, people.mas.edu, cs460, atmanning, homework 4. Oh, I don't have a homework 4 there on the site. Well, I'm just going to click drag and drop homework 4 over here in my web pages. I believe if I drag and drop the folder, it will recreate the folder over at that end. Yes, it does. I can browse into that. There's my index.html. Lovely WinSCP. I think there's a way, I haven't tried it. There may be a way to actually synchronize VS Code to send the code over whenever you make a change. Just like, I think you can configure it to use GitHub to update your GitHub source. But we're going to do it manually just so we're clear what's happening over there. And notice there, I do have the zipped file here as well as the folder. The only way you can tell is one has a tiny little zipper across it. Now let's test how my site works by going to my web page over at people.mas.edu /cs460 /atmanning /hw4. No HTML. Remember, it should automatically bring up index.html, and look at that. It brought up my web page on server. And I saw a hand.
Getting login authentication exhausted.
So having issues logging in. Now you're gonna use the same login as if you log in manually. So I'm here puttying over to people.mas.edu as user. I'm logged in as user atmanning. I happen to browse down into E. Dromowski's file, so I'm going to go back to my home folder by doing CD enter. Now I'm back home. It doesn't matter where I am, but I don't like to be in someone's folder if I actually do a RM. And oh, sorry, Eli, you lost your entire folder. So now I'm going to do sudo pisswd jmarchant, and I'm going to enter my super user password.
So I was setting up sudo the other day, and it's really annoying when the OS doesn't automatically create a sudoers group.
Oh, right.
Because you have to manually edit the
yeah.
sudo.
Sudo, vi sudo, yeah. Yeah. Been there, done that.
And and then you press the wrong key
Yeah.
and it breaks the whole. You have to shut off the computer.
Oh, I didn't match. Let me try that again. Luke, 24:27 exclamation point.
Capital L.
Yeah. There it is. Now you better change it because this is going to be published on the internet, and people will be able to log in as you if you don't change it.
Click. Let's race. You can get control of electrons.
So you can putty or win SCP. Let me go over there and help you make sure you're getting in. Cause you want, and then I'll figure out that thing of can I choose from an array of colors. Oh, you just do on click equals is the only real important thing. I added an yeah, that's all I did. Yeah, on click equals the name of the function that you're going to call. Yeah. Parentheses. And yeah, that's it. Oh, something in between the tags, so your button displays some text on it. Otherwise, you have a tiny button too. If you don't have any text in there, all you get is a tiny dot you can hardly see sometimes. It's like, where's my button? And if you have text between the tartan and tag, then your button takes on a little bit of a structure. Okay, so let's see that it works. Yeah, it worked. I got toggling page color. Now, let's see. What does it take to change my page color? And now I don't expect you to remember all this unless you've done it just recently. I'm guessing it might be document.backcolor. Let's see. Well, we might get a autocomplete there in VS Code. Let's see here. Let's do toggle color. What if we just did like document dot style dot toggle color. I don't think that's it.
And would it be window?
It might be window. That's right. Let's try window. Let's try window dot color, background color, or styled. I think it's window dot. I think it's something styled at something. Well, how do I know? Well, we can try to get lucky here and maybe find something, or go to my friend Chat or internet search. I'm going to Chat because he's usually very helpful. He does the searching for me, logging in using my Google login. And now let's ask it. Example, JavaScript, change page color. All I care about what command changes my page color. I don't need to worry about the on click because I know how to do on click. Now here we have body has a style sheet already set. Document.body.style.background color. You know, do you think you might have gotten lucky and found that? Oh yeah, it's document something. But let's just go ahead and we'll just set this to a string, and then we'll figure out the array thing. So I'm just going to copy that one piece. So this is the part that when you use AI, you're going to have to know what you're seeing and think, okay, from what the example is, I know how to do all of this. Oh yeah, this is the part of the JavaScript. Now this is fairly simple, but as you want more complex behavior, this is where you'll learn stuff as you read through what AI or what an internet search gives you. I find this is much easier than going to Stack Overflow and you read through a lot of nerdy or nasty messages. Why you're so stupid to you don't know that kind of thing. Like, yeah, I'm a newbie. Here's the example. Copy, and let's go back to my code. Put that in here, and I'm gonna put a little thanks, ChatGPT. And instead of new color, remember that is the color I have to decide. I'm just going to say, can I just give it a color? How about blue? Oh, and does the spelling matter? Let's find out. Okay, right now it's going to turn blue and it's not going to toggle back. So I'm going to have to figure out how to toggle it back. But for now, I know, let's see if this works, then I'll know how to change color. Then it's up to me to figure out how do I choose between two colors. So save, go to my WinSCP, publish the events.js because HTML hasn't changed. And now go to my page, refresh, and let's see what happens. Look at that, I did get the background color to change. Now I have to figure out how do I get it to toggle between two other colors. Or, as the specs say, an array. I suppose, why would it be worth it? What good is an array if it only has two colors in it? Let's see how I can create an array of approved colors and then figure out how to toggle between them. So let's go to my code. We know how to create an array, right? Well, let's practice that. I'm going to create my array right inside my function. Let's see. Let's do it inside my function. I'd like it to be inside my function. It doesn't need to be used anywhere else. And I like to create my variables before I do any code, so I'm going to put it at the top of my function, although it's not absolutely required. So I'm going to go const color. Let's see, color. That's how a colors equals. It's an array, so square brackets. Yes, John.
Is there a reason to use const A colors instead of let?
Yeah, because I'm not planning to change it.
Alright.
If I want to add to it, I think I can still make it const, because remember, const means it's a constant location to memory that's not changing. I think I can still add elements to it. So always use, the general advice is use const unless it's a variable that you need to change and you can't deal with it as a const. So let's make it annoying colors or readable colors. So make it gray, white, and pink. Red is kind of hard on the eyes. Now, okay, I have an array of colors. Now, how am I going to know how to toggle between different colors? Well, this is where I'm going to need a let. Let's do a let last color equal 0. And let's make that color be white. So it always come back to white as the 0th element of my array. So white, gray. I'm going to change my order. White, gray, pink. Because it's initially starting out as white because I haven't set the color. When I get back to 0, it'll turn white. So last color is 0. And now let's go ahead, instead of changing the color to blue, let's go here. Let's do last color plus equals 1. But wait, I got a problem. What's going to happen if I keep adding to it? I'm going to go beyond the edge of my array. So maybe I just don't want to add to my last color, because then what I'm planning to do is then just say this color equals a colors. Is it square brackets or curved brackets? Parentheses. Element of an array. Yes, square. And last color. Actually, a better name for this would be I last color. So I remember that's a number, that's an integer. Yes, John?
You could use an if statement. Be like, if last color equals.
Yes. If it's greater than or equal to length. Here's what I like to do with this. I like to do this. In case, so I don't care how long my array is, and I want to make as simple as code possible. I would usually do this. Last color equals parenthesis last color plus 1 in parenthesis mod a colors dot length. So if it ever wraps around, it'll wrap back to 0. This is a nice way, if you know, I don't want to go past the end of the array. It's I last color. Remember, I decided to change the name of that variable to remind me that's an integer. And oops. And I better make sure. I should have done the change variable name instead of manually changing it. There's a way to change all the names all at once. And of course, got to change it everywhere where I'm using it. There. So my count or my index of my last color equals one, add 1 to it, mod it with the length of my array, so it will automatically wrap. Now you could do the if statement. That's perfectly fine. If I last color is greater than or equal to array.length, you better set it back to 0. This is equivalent to that, and I like this. It's kind of nice and neat and demonstrates sophisticated code rather than the lesser quality if statement if you're a really nerdy coder. I think that will work. Let's find out. It should toggle through white, gray, pink, and I can always add more to that array of colors, given you practice using arrays and make sure you understand what this means. So let's test it now. Tab over, send over my new events. The HTML hasn't changed. Go to my page, refresh, toggle page color, gray. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Did something wrong. It's not changing my page color. It's stuck on gray. Can you tell what's wrong?
Is it? I thought maybe it was because.
I think I need to put this outside my function. Let's see if that fixes it. Because it needs to remember that value and not declare a new variable when it comes to this function again. Now let's see if that works. And this will give us, if it works, then it'll give us a good example of the proper scope of a variable. So refresh, click to toggle, gray, pink, white. Gray, pink, white. Now, let's get a good understanding of this. This is a fundamental part of scope of variables. Think of it this way. When I come to my function, when my function starts, I declare a new variable iLastColor, giving it a value 0. And then I add 1 to it and mod it with the length of my array. Well, the next time I come to my function, I am redeclaring that variable iLastColor. And it gets a value 0, adds 1 to it, and I get gray again. So that's why I kept getting gray every time. Now when the variable is outside here, this variable lives as long as my JavaScript doesn't get refreshed. This variable will be declared, have an initial value of 0. If it gets 1 added to it and the function's done, the variable scope is still in the scope of all my JavaScript. It doesn't go away or go outside of its scope. That's why it's really good to use let, because it's clear where the scope of your variable is. If you use var, your variable is always global and it can be very confusing. The good practice is only use it in the scope it's needed to make your code more flexible and debuggable and modular. And just to make it more readable, I'm putting a little white space around that. I like nice readable code. That's your own choice. Is that clear why that made the difference? Declaring it here, not instead of declaring it inside my function?
Because when it just set it back.
Yeah.
0.
Yeah. When I come to my function, if it's inside of here, my function starts. Oh, you want a variable? I will create a variable for you while you're in this function. When you leave there, I throw away any variables you declared here. And you come back the next time, it's going to have 0 and then add 1 to it. And this will be 1 all the time and never toggle through. Here, think of this as it's outside the scope of the function. It is a variable global or always living, or it has the scope of my JavaScript. It doesn't get reset to 0 until I refresh the page. Now I could have saved that in a cookie and done all sorts of other crazy stuff, but for now, we just make it in the memory of JavaScript. Okay, so there's a nice example. I think that's a decent example. Now you can always do something more exciting than simply toggle through 3 colors, but see how nice and neat my code is. I'm going to put a little comment here. Add 2 colors to which the toggle button will set the body color. And this is a great example of how I can get to the main body styles. And I did this with a little help from ChatGPT, figured out, oh yeah, how do you change the color of the entire document? Now that you know to do this, if you get an element and you want to change only that element's color, well, you do the get element by ID and do its .style .background color of that element, and it should be able to toggle through that too. So little pieces dealing with handling events. And now let's go on to the next item. Or I'll let you choose. Do you want to jump ahead to the timer one? Or do you want to, I think the other ones are pretty good. I'm thinking I want to jump ahead to the more difficult timer one to see how that all works. Because timers, you've done it before, right? You do in your web course? So it's not super new to you, but let's make sure that we can get it working. Because I know sometimes the code fades away a little bit as you've done it, and it's like, oh yeah, we have a timer running, and it was working, but I don't remember how we got it all working. So as you revisit it, it will be better cemented in your brain. So let's have a button that does the start and stop the timer. Then we'll figure out how to start and stop the timer. So let's do a button right here. Button ID. I don't know if I even need the ID of it. Timer button. I'll do LBTN timer in case I ever want to refer to it and do something to it. And I'm going to do the on click equals. Now I'm not going to do I'm going to do toggle timer. Sometimes it's going to be off. The next time I click, it's going to be turning it on. So I'm going to assume initially the timer is off. So this text is going to say start timer. And force a new line at the end of that button. So toggle timer is going to initially do an on click, or it's going to be simply do a console.log, and then I will start the timer. I think I'm confident enough I can do both of those and not have to debug the console.log, but let's just throw it in there just in case I have a typo. So I need a toggle timer function. Now you can decide how you're going to organize your code. When I first learned programming in C, as my program grew, I thought, I'm having all these functions. I ended up, as my code grew, I alphabetized my function names. Now you can organize it however you like have the newest stuff at the bottom, but if you want to, you could, and that's why if you're going to alphabetize, the renaming makes a difference. I'm going to alphabetize my functions. So toggle timer will go at the bottom. Function, toggle timer. No parameters yet. And console.log. Timer is, what is my value of timer? I'll call it string timer state. And let's declare, just like we did with the keeping track of my color I'm on, we need to keep a track of the timer state in a separate variable. Let s timer state. It's a string indicating the state of my timer equals off. You could do an array off on. We'll leave it like that for now. I think there's a better way to do it. Okay. And now, how do I turn my timer back on? Let's see here. Maybe I should make that a true or false. I think I'm going to make that a true or false. I'm going to make that false. And I think let's see what happens. Oh, what am I doing with the dot there? I'm going back to my PHP brain. Concatenation in PHP is a dot. I meant that to be a plus. And that's no longer a string, that's a Boolean. I'm going to change that variable name to b timer state because I decided to make it true or false. Right click, rename symbol, or F2, and I can type its new name, b timer state. enter, and it has renamed my variable wherever I've referenced it. Nice thing to do in VS Code. You can right-click rename or F2 if you ever decide to change your variable name. And now I'm going to toggle its state after, let's see, let's toggle it before I tell it what it is. Let's do B timer state. Actually, it's the opposite of what its current value is. Equals not B timer state. This is a great way to toggle a binary or a Boolean value. Its value is equal to the opposite of what it is now. It'll turn true, false, true, false. Let's make sure that that's working. Save that. That was already saved. There's my on-click toggle timer. Let's go ahead and send it over with the WinSCP, both the JavaScript and the HTML. Go to my page now and refresh. Start timer. Timer is true. Timer is false. Okay. State of my timer is on or off. Now I don't like the name true or false. I want it to show on or off. Let me do something different. Just for a little practice at coding. Instead of doing this, let's do the ternary operator. Have you ever heard the ternary operator? Let me demonstrate it. It's kind of a cool thing. Basically, I want this to be the word true or the word false based on whether B is true or false. I'm going to put it in parentheses. Here is the ternary operator. It's a cool thing when you do a simple, if it's true, I'm going to have display the word on. If it's false, I'm going to display the word off. Now, I'm going from memory. I think I got it right. I think it follows the same as the C definition. Let's see if it works the way I hope it works. I know I'm really close if it's not correct. Go to send the new code over. Yes. Refresh the page. Start timer. Timer's on, timer's off. A cool little feature, if I want something that's going to be either one state or another, this is the ternary or two-state operand. The value of this, if it turns out to be true, then what's in parentheses will have this value. It's like the if statement in Excel. Remember the if statement in Excel? Cool.
What's the question?
Oh, the question mark says, test the state of this to determine whether I give you the value of this or this. So think of this as an if statement. If this is true, then I'll give you this as the return value. Otherwise, this. I first came across it when I was learning C. That was one of my first. That was my third programming language. I learned BASIC in high school, really cheesy, primitive BASIC. Then I learned Pascal on a little board computer, and then I learned C. Actually, I'd done a little Fortran, but I really didn't learn Fortran. I just followed a recipe, didn't know what I was doing.